The Oka Crisis, also known as the Kanasatake Resistance, was a resistance movement halting the expansion of a golf course onto the traditional lands of the Kanyagahaga, commonly known as the Mohawk by non-Indigenous people. Although many people would see this as a modern conflict, the geopolitics of this issue go back further into the colonial era of Canada. The Kanyagahaga people have earned a reputation for militancy, earning this title by defending their language, culture, and rights. Not only have they earned this reputation, they were also a member of the Haudenosaunee, which is a testament to their knowledge of their own rights and sovereignty. The traditional territory of the Kanyagahaga people stretched all the way back from Albany, upstate New York, to Ottawa. The story of the Kanyagahaga is nothing new in regards of Canadian colonial history, a story which has been repeated all over the world, a story of cultural and physical genocide. To this day, the Kanyagahaga are a symbol to many First Nations of resistance and liberation, their flag being flown by many non-Kanyagahaga. To tell this story of resistance and liberation, we need to figure out why they seek this liberation, and what brought these people to the point of no return, to the point where if they did not act, they would continue to lose their culture and land even further than they already have. It begins in 1761, when they demanded recognition of their land to the British Crown. They demanded their right to their land and be freed from the Roman Catholics that governed them, describing the unfavorable laws that threatened the livelihood of their people. This demand was outright ignored by Britain. In 1859, the province of Canada gave the Roman Catholics the official title to the land, specifically the Sulpicians. Following 1868, the Dominion of Canada denied the Kanyagahaga people their right to their own land, stating that they never reserved any land aside for the Kanyagahaga. The federal government of Canada proceeded to classify the land of Kanasatake an interim land base, which did not protect their land under the Indian Act, an act that guaranteed the sovereign rights of many First Nations communities and territories. As to why the government did not grant them reserve status, it may have been due to the land's location, as it was too close to developed areas and could be seen as important in the near future, a decision that was based on greed and profit over the well-being of their citizens and original inhabitants. The Kanyagahaga have taken their case to the Quebec Superior Court and secondly to the Court of the King's Bench, the highest ruling court in Canada, both of which were denied on the claims that land was already held by the Sulpicians. By 1948, the Sulpicians sold all of their remaining territories and left the area, leaving the Kanyagahaga people with only 6 square kilometers of land, compared to the 687 square kilometers of land they once held. In 1961, a new golf course, Club de Golf Oka, would be constructed, very close to the Kanyagahaga burial grounds, an ancestral and undisturbed plot of land belonging to the Kanyagahaga people by ancestry and tradition, although not by Canada's absurd laws based on profiteering. In 1989, the mayor of Oka at the time, Jean Ouellet, announced their plan to construct housing and an illegal expansion of the Oka golf course. This would obviously outrage the Kanyagahaga people, who were already furious about the initial construction near their land. Despite months of protests and concerns from the Minister of Environment and Minister of Native Affairs, construction was begun to set in 1990. The Kanyagahaga people knew they had to act, or they would continue to lose vital ancestral and traditional land they held so close to them for millennia. To falter the development of the golf course, a group of Kanyagahaga barricaded a local road, blocking access to the area. A group that called themselves the Mohawk Warrior Society helped with this protest and manned the barricades. The town of Oka demanded this barricade be removed. After refusing to remove the barricade, the town of Oka called in the provincial police to do their dirty work. On July 11, 1990, police began to fire tear gas and concussion grenades towards the protesters, despite the wind blowing the tear gas back at the police themselves. What ensued was a brief firefight between the Mohawk warriors and the police. During this incident, one officer was shot and killed. It is unclear who fired the first shot. During the confusion of tear gas and concussion grenades, resistance continued, and the police formed their own barricades. Not only did the police have to deal with the resistance members, but also frustrated members of the public who feel that the police have escalated the situation heavily. After this horrific incident, the Kanyagahaga people demanded full sovereignty over their lands. In mid-July, the town of Oka requested the presence of the armed forces. This would escalate the situation to a deadly level. Completely unhinged acts of violence towards the Kanyagahaga people were surely to follow. August 20th, 1990. 4,000 troops dispersed around the region and maintained defensive positions. These 4,000 troops were backed by armed vehicles, helicopters, and artillery cannons. A show of force that completely undermines the resistance movement these people were fighting against a system that cared little for their well-being. This operation was so outrageously extensive that it used up the entire national supply of barbed wire. Soldiers swiftly dismantled the barricades and negotiation was back on the table, although the Ganyagahaga people had little to no leverage with their barricades being taken down. September 18th, 1990. Quebecois officers landed on the island of Tekakwitha and marched towards the community with intent to lay barbed wire. Though this was dismantled by the Ganyagahaga, who began to resist the officers and attempted to fight back against them in a standoff that injured 22 soldiers and 75 Ganyagahaga, ranging from 5-year-olds to 72-year-olds. The resistance would come to an end on the 26th of September, 1990. Members of the community withdraw from their barricades suddenly, surprising the military members. During this confusion, a soldier would stab a 14-year-old girl in the chest with his bayonet, who was holding her 4-year-old sister. The results of this resistance led to the federal government purchasing the plot of land that was planned to be an expansion for the golf course and townhouses. They continued to purchase more and more land for the Ganyagahaga people, although they never labeled their land as reserve land. To this day, they remain an interim land base, and they're still not recognized as an independent reservation.